I mentioned the Sonk trade in the intro, and Vegas, they thought they traded forward Evgeny Dadonov and a second rounder to Anaheim for John Moore and Ryan Kessler's contract just before the deadline. But the trade was eventually nullified because it turns out Anaheim was on his no-trade list. Vegas acquired him back last summer from Ottawa, and per Pierre LeBrun, Vegas claims that the Senators, back on the trade call in July, said that Dadonov hadn't submitted a trade list by the deadline. But it turns out his reps did, in fact, file a list before the deadline. There was a paper trail for it. So the trade was nullified. And Pierre LeBrun also said that a no-trade list is submitted solely between a player agent and the club. The league and the NHLPA do not keep track of a no-trade list, which, I don't know, it seems kind of like there should be a better system in place. So it sounds like Ottawa basically gave Vegas shitty intel, which they leaned on when they tried to trade him. A deal that would have taken $3.375 million off of Vegas's books, but there's not going to be any punishment for Ottawa. I mean, it seems like they basically didn't do their paperwork or their homework. Nobody's coming out and saying that. Vegas obviously was looking to dump salary to make room for Alex Martinez and/or Mark Stone. Pierre LeBrun does think the NHL is going to push for a change with that this week when the GMs meet. They should have a little bit of a more, I guess something between the players, the union, Players Association, rather, the agents and the team, so that everybody gets a copy and people know what's going on. The guy who probably suffered the most out of this, other than Dadonov, is Ryan Kessler. Instead of getting traded to Vegas or his contract, it's going to cost him another $150,000 in taxes, Biz. I figured you might want to know that, Dale.
I mean, he's made so much, he probably doesn't give a shit. That's like ashtray money to him.
I also saw his Instagram. He's on vacation somewhere, and he's holding what looks to be a 50-inch fish. I wrote him. I go, Jesus Christ, dude. He goes, this is a record fish. Like, check. I don't know if the story will still be up tomorrow or Tuesday when you guys are listening, but he's living right.
Yeah, well, the NHLPA, they weren't happy what happened because Dadonov did nothing wrong, and he had to wait. He missed games, crucial games, too. He's been one of Vegas's hottest players, and he can't play because other people screwed up. So the NHL, or Ottawa, whoever, this is a mess that should be fixed. So this doesn't happen again, man. A guy puts a team on his no-trade list, and a team tries to trade him 2 trades later. It's kind of fucked up. Anything like this ever happened to you guys?
It's just a classic case of something happening where they had a shitty system in place, much like in the NFL when something happens and they're like, oh, there's no rule for this. Well, somebody's got to get fucked out of the whole thing. Surprised it wasn't Ottawa who ends up getting any type of punishment. Not saying that they should, but if you're trading a guy who's submitted a no trade list to 10 teams, you should be forwarding that on. I mean, that's bad bookkeeping. It sucks for Vegas because they missed a guy for 2 games, but in the same breath, it's like, well, they were trying to get rid of him. And they've kind of been fucked with the cap situation with all these crazy moves they continually make. And now all of a sudden, sometimes the best moves are the ones that you don't make, where this guy has came back and, I mean, single-handedly kind of helped their season keep going because they don't have any room for error at this point. If they would have lost that game to the Hawks in which they were down 3-0, I mean, they're, like I said, Dallas has 4 games in hand right now, and I think Vegas is 1 point ahead of them. So I have been adamant that I think that Dallas is somewhat of a boring team to watch. And I know their fans are going to be pissed at me saying that. Every time I watch them play, I'm kind of like, I'm not that excited. Has Vegas been the most entertaining team this year? No. But if they get healthy, they're going to be fucking entertaining as hell. And it's kind of a cool story. And then, of course, with their crowd and the drama of Jack Eichel being in the mix. I don't know if you Sabres fans are going to be telling me I'm tugging him off like the Kawasabi hat I have on. But this was a huge moment for them, a great comeback, and I'm really happy for the guy. And as Pete DeBoer said, like, really sometimes in this game, your character is going to be tested, and he handled everything like a true professional. He didn't pout. He just came back in, got back right to the way that he left off before it all happened, working his balls off. And it's just fitting that, he's been lighting the lamp and really carrying the load offensively for them.
Yeah, it really goes to show that there needs to be a change, and the whole issue with no trade lists, or the teams that you put on your no trade list, is it's never been made public. So it's only been made public with the player, his agent, and then the staff of the team that he's signing the contract with. And the reason it's never gone further than that is because a lot of players and agents alike, they don't want those lists to get out, because there's the chance where there's some fan bases that find out this guy doesn't want to go here. It just can create headaches that are kind of unnecessary, where players would rather keep those lists private. But after this, and Pierre LeBrun wrote a pretty good article about this, explaining like they have to change it. There has to be a like central registry. Is it central registry, RA, that they decide if all the trades go through? Like, they fucked up here.
So
they never mess up, right? And they got a million things going on trade deadline day, but they were the ones that finally okayed this trade. So it's a little bit on them as well. But there needs to be something in place where not only is there one spot, not for the public to see, but for the entire league to see a player's no trade list. And it also needs to be created a time where everyone produces their list the same day or by the same day. Whereas right now it's like totally different. It's up to the team and the player when they have to give the list in. July 1st, is it March 1st before the deadline? So they really need to kind of figure out a way that this won't happen again. The same way they're talking about maybe getting the salary cap into the Stanley Cup playoffs and calling it like the Kucherov rule, like this could be the Dadonov rule or the Dadonov rule, and just kind of finally make it well aware to every team who's on which player's no trade list, when it kicks in, when it doesn't count. Because before, if you had a I had a no trade list on my final 3 years of the 6-year deal I signed in Pittsburgh, so they could do anything before those 3 years. But then if I were to be traded, it canceled out. It was gone.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah, and now since the lockout of what was it? Was it 14, whatever?
04,
12?
The 13 lock. Okay.
Yeah, so that now actually you don't lose the no trade list if you were to be traded.
Interesting.
So it's kind of changed a little bit, but there needs to be some sort of like organization to this. So and you guys were right in saying Dadonov, I mean, that sucks. You're with a team you enjoy playing for. You agreed to be traded there, and you have to go through kind of the embarrassment, and he just didn't shrug. He didn't whine or complain. He just showed up, and he's been their best player. So, and quickly about Vegas, they have 14 games left. If they don't win at least 11 of them, I don't think they can get in.
I was going to say
and interesting about what you said about Dallas, the 8 teams in the East have been pretty much set for, I don't know, 3 months. It's kind of been crazy how the 8 and 8 in the Eastern Conference are that different in terms of good teams and bad teams. The West, Winnipeg has a very slight chance, but I think it's really Dallas that could probably sneak in. Right now, the wild card teams are currently St. Louis and Vegas. Dallas is the only team fighting for a playoff spot right now in the entire league that has a minus goal differential in the year. So it is, I mean, they're not exciting. I'm with you, Biz. I actually think that they could cause problems if they were to get in. They're not the easiest team to play against. And what's his name's playing unreal in net there right now? Wedgwood?
Ottinger. Oh, Wedgwood got traded over from the Coyotes.
Yeah, Wedgwood got traded over and has been playing great because Holtby's on long-term IR. So, yeah, it was a brutal scenario for Dadonov, but he bounced back like a true professional.
So you kind of brought up another point, Whit. You said fan bases might get riled up and maybe it would, create maybe some insults or animosity, maybe even more so other teams and GMs hearing that they didn't want to come there.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah, when that contract runs out, it really cockblocks him as far as teams maybe being like, well, he didn't want to be here to begin with, and now that he's got no options, no, screw this guy. So maybe that's a reason that it was originally handled the way it was. So it probably has to go to some type of arbitrator where it, compiles where still those other teams are not going to find out who the teams are, but yet it is in the league database.
I did get a huge kick out of his pregame announcement of his name. Vegas's arena went wild when they announced him. The place went crazy, and I go to the Starbucks nearby and on Mondays from like 3 to 5. I just kind of get on the computer, do some research, get dialed in for the show, and I was laughing out loud because I was like, if I got traded from Pittsburgh to Anaheim, and 2 days later, that fucking thing got reversed. And I then got announced at Mellon Arena. The crowd would have booed as loud as they've ever booed for anything in their lives. It would have been like that girl when Trump got elected, like on the ground, like, no! And meanwhile, Dadonov gets this insane, like, ovation from the crowd. I was happy for him. But I was laughing, thinking about how happy people were that Kunitz was coming and I was going. And if you had to reverse it on him, I had to jump over a car myself that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you didn't get a video tribute at all, either in Pittsburgh or in Anaheim.
That wasn't really a thing when he got dealt.
I don't think I was wondering that. No, it was for legends.
Middle fingers.
It was for legends. I've told you that the whole video tribute thing's completely jumped the shark. Everyone gets one. Everyone and their mothers get one now.
Ushers get them.
I went back to Pittsburgh as an Anaheim Duck, and I was like -3 in the first period, and we got worked by them. And then when I went back to Anaheim as an Edmonton Oiler, it was the last game of the year. I think we actually won, and I scored. And then that night, I didn't go back to Edmonton because all my stuff was still in Anaheim. So I went to Sharky's and met all the boys because the Ducks didn't make the playoffs, and we certainly didn't make the playoffs in Edmonton. So I went to Sharky's, and then I was getting all my stuff from my apartment and just kind of heading home a couple days later. And I remember Jason Blake came up. He's like, "Oh, that sucks. You got traded to the worst team. They suck." I'm like, "Get away from me right now, dude." It's brutal.
But Jesse Granger, who covers Vegas for the Athletic, stopped by the Chiclets Cup in Vegas. Yeah, great guy. He said it was one of the loudest ovations he heard. Not just like a nice cheer, like legit one of the loudest. And he's
a heck of a player. Like he was in Ottawa.
Yeah. I mean, Florida, everywhere he's been, he's like scored goals. He's produced. He's one of these guys who gets bounced around a lot. But a goal and 2 assists in that 6-1 win the first game after the non-trade biz. And then, of course, you get the overtime game winner in Chicago, like you mentioned, down 3-0 going into the third. 5 points in the 2 games since, 32 points in 64 games. Tied for second in goals. And also, Vegas was 0-57 when trailing by 3+ goals in the third period. They were in their 4th game in 6 days. I mean, you don't know if it's going to be a galvanizing win for them because, you know, they're kind of behind the 8 ball right now. They need wins. Dallas has games in hand. So we got a hell of a race out in the West. And also, we got to give a shout out to Pete DeBoer, who did coach his 1,000th NHL game. Got a win over Nashville, the 30th coach to do so. And also, we want to send our best wishes out to Vegas's Brett Howden. He's going to be out for a little while. Got stretched off the ice after an unfortunate hit. Looked like he was going down. And Philippe Forsberg went in. Looked like he may have already been committed to the hit. I don't think it was dirty at all. It was just kind of shit timing type thing. And, you know, it's always shitty to see a guy down like that and stretch it off. But he was fine. No major injuries. He's going to be banged up for a bit. So nice to see he's going to be all right.